On today's Join Us in France, tips for your big trip to Disneyland Paris. This is Join Us in France, episode 157. Bonjour, I'm Annie, and today I bring you a conversation with Debbie Raises on Disneyland Paris. We get into specific differences and similarities between the Disneyland Paris experience compared to Disney World and Disneyland in California, the hotels we've tried, the restaurants, the rides, and advice that she would give to a friend who's preparing to visit Disneyland Paris. Our next Paris tour is scheduled for October 1st through October 7th, 2017. Elise and I are really looking forward to meeting the folks who've already booked, and we've also added several tours for 2018 for those of us who like to plan in advance. That would be me, by the way. Also, I like to plan in advance. So check out addictedtofrance.com for dates and details. If you've been to Disneyland Paris and want to add to the conversation, please go to the show notes, joinusinfrance.com/157, the numbers, and add a comment. I really love the lively conversation we have on the Join Us in France closed group on Facebook, but those tips and suggestions disappear from the Facebook feed really quickly, and the search feature really on Facebook, it's really awful. So it's best that you put them on the show notes. At least that way it's organized by topic. And now on with my conversation with Debbie Raises. Hello, Debbie, and welcome to Join Us in France.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good here in sunny Florida.
Sunny Florida, how nice. So I thank you so much for coming on the show to talk to us about your experiences and your tips for a successful trip to Disneyland Paris. Before we get to that, let's talk about you a little bit and, just introduce you and your family.
Sure. So I live in Florida with my husband, and I have two children. Their ages are 7 and 10. And we live about an hour and 15 minutes away from the Walt Disney World Resort. So I'm very close to the magic, and we have we have a very long history with Disney. My husband and I do, and then in full disclosure, my husband now works for the Walt Disney Company, so we are very lucky to be able to get into the parks most time when we want to. There's some blackout days, but
that's
me
really
and my
fun.
family, we're able to get in and go for free and kind of play whenever we want to.
That's nice. And is it the same for Disneyland Paris?
It is.
Ooh,
yes.
Nice.
Yes, and it works at a couple of the different parks. So it works the same in Disneyland in California, Paris, and a couple other of the international parks. So it's a nice perk to have.
Yeah, people are going to be jealous.
Yeah, a little bit.
But that's okay. You already go to Disneyland, so they're jealous anyway. So
yeah.
All right, very good. So why did you decide to come to France and to Disneyland Paris?
Okay, well, we decided to come to France because of Disneyland Paris.
Really? You wanted to see that one?
Yeah, that was the whole start of it. And we knew we had this opportunity that my husband had these tickets that worked there so we could get into the park for free. And because he's an employee, and employee terms for the Disney company is called a cast member. So I'll use the word cast member a lot. And we know that the cast members they had a 50% off discount at hotels. And we thought, this is a good opportunity to go.
Yeah.
And then we debated, we said, okay, well, if we're going to go to France, we should do Paris, right? We shouldn't just stay at Disneyland Paris. But we really debated whether we just stayed at the hotel at Disneyland Paris and took the train in each day to Paris, or should we get a separate hotel and stay in Paris, or what to do.
Yeah, and what did you decide?
We ended up deciding to spend 4 nights in the city of Paris separately, and then take the train over and spend 4 nights separately at Disneyland Paris, because we had talked to a few people who had been to France before and had looked at the time, and it's about a 45-minute train ride. It's not terrible.
No.
But, you walk a lot in Paris, and it would kind of be not to our advantage. We couldn't stop and go back to the hotel and drop purchases off, or rest our feet, or that kind of thing. And it works the same way at Disneyland Paris. You walk a lot at Disneyland Paris, and so you'd want to, it's nice to have the hotel right where you're at.
Nearby. Yeah. I really, I've done this a few times, taking the RER all the way between the center of the city and Disneyland Paris. And it's 45 minutes, and it's a nice, clean train. It's easy to do and all that. But it's a long ways. And if you're going to do the return, it's...
Yes. Yeah, you waste a lot of time.
Yeah, you do waste a lot of time, and there's not much, that you can do with that time. Personally, I wouldn't do it. I would choose to do what you did, which is just, be in the city when you're in the city, and be at Disneyland when you're at Disneyland.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds...
But to tell people, it's a super easy train ride. So we literally, we left our hotel that morning, and we tried as hard as we could to pack lightly, but we're Americans. And so we boarded the train, with like our 3 big suitcases, and they sat right there with us. And you make a bunch of stops, but it's the last stop. Isn't like a dead end at Disneyland Paris. You can't mess it up. It's so easy to get there. Yeah,
you just get to the end of the line, and then you get off.
Right.
And then when you get off, you have the big entry plaza to Disneyland Paris is right there. I mean, it's, you walk maybe, I don't know, 100 meters or something.
Exactly.
It's very close.
Yeah. Because we did talk like, well, do we do Uber from the city or not? And I would just tell people to take the train.
Yeah.
Save money.
Well, okay. So what we did once, my husband's company had bought, last time I was at Disneyland Paris, my husband's company had bought... it was like a Christmas party, but it was at Disneyland Paris.
Okay.
And so they bought tickets for all of us, and they organized the party and all that. Yeah, it was very, very nice. And so we just flew into Paris for that.
Okay.
So we took an early flight. We got in Paris I don't know if it was like 8 or 8:30 a.m. And there were four of us. And so we decided, okay, we'll just get an Uber between Orly, which is most Americans will fly into Charles de Gaulle, CDG, but we were flying into Orly, and we decided to take an Uber. And honestly, I think it would have cost a little bit more money to get 4 train tickets than that Uber was. Okay, because there were 4 people.
Yes, true.
I think if you have 3 or 4 people, and it was so fast and so easy. So I'm like, okay, next time we do this, I'm definitely doing Uber again.
Good to hear.
Yeah. It's simple, and I think it's a good solution. But the train is also a good solution. It's easy also. Very good. All right. So tell me a little bit about your style of traveling. Do you mostly travel to Disney, or do you also do other types of travel?
We do a lot of Disney travel, but we liked traveling places where there's lots of things and experiences to do. So, we live in Florida, which there's beaches everywhere. Yeah. So we typically don't go on a vacation to sit on a beach because we have that here. And, we're pretty active people. So in the past, before we had kids, my husband and I had done some international traveling, but we hadn't done it again since we had kids. So this was our first time going outside of the United States again. It was our first time in Europe in general. But the year before we left, we had gone to New York City. So I had my kids kind of prepped. They're good walkers. They don't complain a lot because, when we walked in Paris or at Disneyland Paris, we did anywhere from like 6 to one day we got up to 10 miles of walking.
It can be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So we felt pretty confident having done a bigger city the year before, like, okay, they can handle this. And yeah, typically when we go on vacation, we're just exhausted by the end because we've been going.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yes.
Yes, that's very good. Okay, so just briefly, the 4 days that you spent in Paris, did you do the regular Paris thing, like museums and stuff like that?
We did the Eiffel Tower, we did the Louvre, we did Sainte-Chapelle and Notre Dame, and we took a day to go over to Versailles.
Ah, very good. Oh, wow, you packed a lot in for just 4 days. That's really
yeah.
cool.
So it was really surprising for us. We didn't realize the days would be so long too, and the sun comes up so early. And we went in June, and so it blew us away that the sun really didn't set until 10:45 or something.
Right. So you went in June 2017, just this year, right?
Yes, June 2017.
Yeah, so this is very recent.
It is.
Yeah, in France, it's because of where we are situated on the earth. We get very long days. So sunrise is right around 6 a.m. And this time of year, June, July, sunset is not till, it's not dark until 11, pretty much.
Yes.
So.
So when you want to see the Eiffel Tower sparkle, you really have to wait, until 11 p.m. to do that.
Yes, you have to plan. Did you do that?
We did, yes.
Yeah.
My kids, they didn't go to bed. I think most nights they went to bed at 12:30 a.m. or 1, each night. It was a little crazy for us.
Yeah, they're on vacation, so.
Yeah, they did okay.
Yeah, that's great. All right, very good. So now let's get to Disneyland Paris. What are some of the similitudes and differences that you noticed?
It felt like home going there. So it was very similar. If you've been to a Disney park in the States, the layout is the same, and that is kind of the trademark of a Disney park. You come in and you have the main street and you have the hub, but there are, some little differences, and it's always fun to explore different rides, that are different in different parks. But one big difference that impacted the way we did things a little bit was the Fast Pass system. I don't know if you're familiar with the Fast Pass system.
Yeah, a little bit. It was closed mostly when we...
Oh, dear.
Yeah. When we were there that day, the lines were short.
Nice.
And there were very few Fast Pass attractions.
Opportunities. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've been to a park in the States, then they've seen Fast Passes before too. And it's, you go up to this little kiosk and you get a ticket, and it tells you when you can come back and ride the ride. And they offer Fast Passes usually for the longer wait attractions. At Disney World, they've gone high tech, and they've already made that electronic and digital. So everything is scheduled ahead of time on your phone through the Disney World app. There's no more paper tickets. And
that's cool.
Disneyland in California hasn't done that yet. So, we understood that it would still be the paper ticket. So that's a little bit different. But what was really different was that your window for the Fast Pass was only 30 minutes. And here at Disney World and in Disneyland in California, your window is an hour. So usually you'd get the ticket and then you could go do a couple other things or have lunch, But when we got our first Fast Pass ticket, we're like, oh, okay, 30 minutes. Okay. We really wanted to make sure that we got there at the right time. And, I wasn't sure how strict they would be about, well, if you came outside of your time, could you still get on it or not? So that was a little different.
So were you very strict? I mean, did you adhere to the time?
We did. We tried to stay, very within the window. But there was one time we were in the studios part of the park, because there's 2 parks, and we had lunch reservations, and we were worried about our Fast Pass time. And so we had asked the waitress, we said, hey, we have a Fast Pass for, the Ratatouille ride, and we're worried about making it. And she said, as long as you show that you had lunch here, it's no problem, which they didn't even ask when we went through. We were a little late going in the Fast Pass line, and they didn't even care.
Oh, good. That's good
so
to know.
I'm assuming as long as you don't come hours, late, then you're probably fine.
Yeah. Oh, very good. All right.
Something else that was different that we really liked was when we came into the Disneyland park and you have the main street. First off, Main Street at Disneyland Paris has cobblestones, which is really cool because that's very Parisian, right?
Yes.
But on the sides of the main street, they have the shops, and then there's something called, I think it's called the Liberty Arcade. And it's an indoor like walkway. It's the other side of the shops, and it takes you down Main Street, but it's all covered. So you're protected from the sun or the rain or other weather elements. Well, the parks in America don't have that.
Really? Oh, I didn't remember that.
No, and it was so quaint in there. It's this turn of the century, and it's decorated so well. And every time like we came in, we're like, let's go down the Liberty Arcade side.
Right, yeah, because you can actually make your way out of the park through there and buy your souvenirs at the end.
Yes.
Which is what
so
we
if
did.
There's a parade coming down Main Street, it gets really clogged up at Disney World. But if you had this side alley-like way, it helps so much more. And in talking to one of the cast members there as we were shopping at one point, and they were chatting with us, and we had said, oh, we love this. And she seemed so shocked. And she said, you don't have that, in the States? You don't have this separate? And we said, no. And she said, well, what do you do if it rains? I'm like, you walk down Main Street. You put an umbrella up or a poncho and you just keep trucking.
French people, we don't like rain. We're sensitive. Very good. So speaking of that, did you find that most of the cast members in France were able to speak good English?
Yes. That was actually really impressive. I walked away really being impressed with their ability to switch back and forth. So, most everyone we went up to, they would be able to speak some English. And a lot of them were really good within the area of what they do, right? So if you talk to somebody in the food, if you're getting at the restaurant, they knew English pretty well in relation to the food stuff. Now, if you went off topic and got a little personal, sometimes it didn't translate the same. But they knew what they needed to know. Like we talked to our waitress and we said, do you have to know English to work here? And she said, oh, yes. She's like, of course you have to know French, but you have to know English to be able to get a job in that particular restaurant, at least on the Disney property.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense.
But I was impressed because we would be in lines for attractions and, typically you get to that first cast member and then you tell them how many are in your party so they can put you in the right row. And ahead of me would be someone who clearly speaks French because he told them in French and then he directed them in French. And then he would come to me and I would make sure to tell them in English, like 4. And then boom, he'd switch right back to English. And so they would go back and forth from French to English. It kind of blew my mind that they had to kind of be dual brain like that,
Well, that's natural. Like I speak both languages and I can do that in my sleep. Yeah. I mean, it's easy when you're native of, it's easy.
Yeah. So I always, felt like there was plenty of English through the park. There was, the maps you can get are in all different languages, including English. And, there was no problem at all talking with cast members in English. And a lot of the cast members were really happy to do it, especially the merchandise and the shops and stuff like that. Once they found out that my husband was a cast member in the United States, they really wanted to talk more about it. And they would say things like, oh, I'm practicing. I want to work there too, and I'm practicing to make my English better. I mean, it was really cool.
That's cool. That's very good.
I wanted to share with people is that I felt so safe at Disneyland Paris. So, when we were in Paris walking around, you have to be vigilant because of the pickpockets and for other things that are happening. And I'm there with my kids. But when we got off the train and got to Disneyland, the first thing you go through is a metal detector and a bag check.
Yep.
Like an x-ray. And just for me, like that just gave me a great peace of mind. So anytime you were on the Disney property, like you'd walk through the villages and in the park, that screening had taken place. And so we didn't feel as on guard. I'm sure maybe there are pickpockets at Disneyland Paris, but we didn't run into anything remotely.
I honestly doubt it. Because pickpockets are looking for, they want big crowds, which Disneyland Paris is a big crowd, but they don't want to pay to get in. And they would probably, a lot of them, if you're a bit, if you know your way around Paris, you will recognize them, and so the tactics that work in the city wouldn't there.
Yes. So yeah, we felt very comfortable. And again, like with the X-ray machines and the bag checks, I was like, this is great. I really enjoyed that peace of mind.
Yeah, it's a fact that they do that everywhere now. So not just in France. I think they do that a lot of places, anywhere you go. But
we have it here in the States for the park too. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine if there was a big incident? That would be awful.
It would be bad. Yes. So yeah, but just having been in Paris and we were super vigilant and always looking and everything. I felt like we could let our guard down a little bit at Disneyland Paris, and we're like, okay.
Did you go to Disneyland Village very much?
Well, we had to walk through it because of our hotel.
Yeah.
So we walked back and forth through it. And then we did some shopping. We shopped at the Disney store there and things like that. So we popped into Starbucks in there. So we went through there quite a bit. The rides at Disneyland Paris are a little more thrill rides. And like, for example, now it's called Hyperspace Mountain. They just recently revamped it at Disneyland Paris. So it goes upside down.
It does.
Yeah, which was really cool. My kids loved that ride.
Yeah, I loved it too. I had to go through it again, but it was short lines, so it was not a problem.
Easy.
Yeah.
And then they have an Indiana Jones ride in the back of the park in Adventureland that also goes upside down, which I was shocked. Yes.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then the Big Thunder ride, which is all, over here too, was a lot more, it was faster and it was a lot more fun. And again, we were talking to one of the cast members because they have a lot of pride in their park, of course. And they would say, our Big Thunder's better than yours, isn't it? And we were like, yeah, it really was, a little more fun. And she said, we have more sensation here at Disneyland Paris because Europeans like thrill and sensation, and so they have to do a little bit more at the Disneyland Paris park.
Well, and honestly, the other parks they are competing with have some really thrilling attractions. The one I know well is PortAventura. It's in just south of Barcelona.
Oh, nice! And
it's a Universal Studios park, but it's like high thrill. It's Yeah. And so if they want to attract families that have, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, they have to do more of these kind of thrill. Yeah. Otherwise, they're going to get a reputation for, Disney is for babies.
Just, true.
So,
yeah, so we have our own, we have our fair share of thrill rides here at the Walt Disney World Resort, but they're spread amongst like 4 parks. The Disney, what we call the Magic Kingdom here in the Florida park, we've got a Space Mountain and a Big Thunder and all that, but it wasn't quite as intense as the rides there. So my kids loved it. They thought it was great. They're missing a couple like old attractions that are, well known to Disneyland. It's the Tiki Birds. They don't have one of those at Disneyland Paris.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't have a Jungle Cruise. That was a little different. And they didn't. So we went in the time when it was the heat wave, right? Oh my gosh, it was so hot. And what was missing, and I live in Florida, and it's hot a lot here in Florida. But what was missing at Disneyland Paris was really a lot of indoor attractions where you could sit in air conditioning. Yeah. Some of those, ones like a Tiki Birds where you're like, okay, I'm going to sit down for 15 minutes in the air.
That's true. You're outside a lot.
You are, yeah. And not as much air conditioning.
When it's 40 degrees, you die. Yeah. I was in the Dordogne at the same time. Okay. It was the second week of June here. And it was hot.
It was hot. And the sun stayed up so long. It would be 8 o'clock. We're like, why is it so sunny still?
Okay, that's very good. Yeah. So did you go to both parks? Sorry.
We did, yes. And as I'm talking, I'm thinking, I'm not saying a whole lot about the studios part. The studios part, was a little disappointing to us. It wasn't as great as we kind of hoped it would be. They have a couple repeat rides that we have down here as well. They have the Rock and Roller Coaster. They have the Tower of Terror. We have those. They do have a couple unique rides that were phenomenal there. There's a Crush Coaster. It was a lot of fun. But a very long line for the Crush Coaster.
Yes, it's new.
Yes, but there's no Fast Pass for that.
No.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, because, we did that one and it was very cute, but, it's, no fast pass. Yeah.
Do you want to wait 60 minutes for it or not? It's tough. And then we did the new Ratatouille ride, which is a real, high tech ride that they don't have that technology over in the attractions over here yet. It was a great ride.
What do you mean?
So
I haven't been on that one.
Yeah, you're like in little mouse cars and you move around and you have 3D glasses and you become small like a mouse and they have the big 3D screens. Ooh. And so you kind of move through it but you're not just sitting there in a room like you are a Star Tours kind of ride and the whole thing shakes. Your car actually does move some. It's nothing where it's like I get motion sickness pretty easily and I was a little worried about it, but it was nothing intense. But you move from room to these screens, and so you kind of feel like you're a little mouse going from place to place. It was a really great ride.
But it's like what sort of? Did you say you use goggles? They put goggles on you?
Yes, 3D glasses to make it 3D.
Oh, just 3D glasses. Okay,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
I think that might be one of their newest, attractions. And there's a whole Ratatouille area, and it's like Paris, and it's really done well.
Yeah, and so they don't have that one at Disneyland in Florida. Is Disney World in Florida? Huh.
Nope. There's rumors. There's rumors, but it's not there yet.
And do they have it in California?
Nope.
Oh, so that one's unique to France.
Yes. So I believe so is the Crush Coaster. It's not, well, I know it's not in the States. I don't think it's in the other international parks, but the Crush Coaster isn't as well. So
yeah, that was I enjoyed it. It was a long wait, but it was worth it. But then we only just spent the one day and it wasn't enough to do everything. How long did you spend? You said you spent...
We had like 3 full days and a half of another day.
Okay.
Yeah. So, which some people thought, oh my goodness, that's so much time at Disneyland Paris. But we used we could have used another day. Because we want to ride things more than once. If, we had our favorites, we want to go back and do it again. And it wasn't super busy when we were there. It was moderate, I would say. Yeah. I really thought it would be a little bit quieter because I had heard that the French students weren't out of school yet.
That's true.
But it still was. It was hopping. It was definitely not too busy, but more busy than I thought it would be.
Was it mostly French visitors, or did you hear other languages?
That's a good question. We did. We heard a lot of French and other languages. I heard some English, but the English I heard would probably be from the UK.
Yeah.
I noticed that I didn't hear anyone that I thought was American. So I, was talking with my husband after we came back. I said, I don't know if there's a big draw if you live in the States to really make sure you do Disneyland Paris, because there's a good chance that you've done it either in Florida or California.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But there are some of us like us who really wanted to make sure, that we tried it. And we loved doing it. We thought it was a great park.
Yeah. So 3.5 full days it is a... I'm not a Disneyland fanatic, I enjoy it, but it's not. I think for me, 2 days would have been enough.
I think 2 days is probably for a normal person. 2 days would be good.
If you're not gonna, but of course you were there when it was super hot, and so maybe you went and hid from the sun in the middle of the afternoon or something. Yeah. Yeah,
we would have to walk back and just get out of the sun for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just too hot.
Yeah.
All right. So does that cover it for the similarities? And
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, again, it felt very, very similar if you're used to navigating around the parks in the States. There's differences, but it was very, very similar in the layout, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So are there some things you wish you knew before you came?
There were some things I would say to make sure you do know before you came. We had that mapped out, but I would say make sure you know what attractions are open and what attractions are closed.
Yes.
And that's easy to do because they have an app now. Mm-hmm. If you just go and search Disneyland Paris in whatever store you use on your phone, you'll find the app and it'll tell you what's under refurbishment. Because originally we were planning to come in March That's when the kids here in the States had spring break, and we thought, let's do a Disneyland Paris trip in March. Mm-hmm. And what we discovered was there were a lot of attractions closed during that time because they were ramping up. This year, 2017, is the 25th anniversary of Disneyland Paris being open.
Already? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, 92, I think, was the year it opened. And so they're doing a big celebration right now. But the month leading up to, maybe it was May when it kind of kicked off that celebration, they took a lot of rides and closed them and did construction and painted them and made them what they call sparkle,
Yeah.
Added the sparkle. So when we were looking to do that trip in March, we thought, oh, wow, this ride's closed and this ride's closed. And this isn't going to be too good. We're only going to be there probably once in our lives. So we decided to push and move the trip into the summertime so that more stuff would be open. And then we could fully appreciate that celebration.
Right. And, when we were there in December, I'm pretty sure it was early December, there were also a few things that were closed. And like I said, the Fast Passes, pretty much we couldn't do that anywhere because they just had like a thing over the machine. It wouldn't even dispense a ticket.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and I guess it's not worth their. I mean, I don't know why, but very few.
If you don't need it, why bother?
Yeah. So, interesting, very good.
Mm-hmm. So so one of the things we were disappointed to see was that the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction wasn't opened, and we knew that, we had seen that, and we kind of had hoped. That it would be open, but it still never opened. And it's getting a very big refurbishment. It's closed. It's July. It's still closed for now. It's almost ready to open, but it's going to be a big one. But, we hoped, we're like, oh, maybe because the new movie came out and everything, it was kind of bad timing for Disney to have closed that.
Yeah.
Because of the movie. But,
I don't remember if it was open or closed when I went in December.
Yeah. It might have been open, but that's a favorite ride for our family too. So it was a little disappointing, but we knew that going in. We're like, well, it was that and Small World were the two rides that were closed that were important to us.
Oh, so. that one was open in December because I did it and it was lovely. I loved it. I don't know why I like that ride so much. I just love that thing, Yeah. And I just walk around singing the song the whole day.
Yes.
I'm pathetic.
I don't get it stuck in my head. I can do it and it leaves. It's okay. It's no problem.
Just mentioning it now, I'm probably going to sing it the rest of the day.
Yes, that's funny.
Anyway.
I would also make sure before you go that you know if your hotel has AC. And I know that you've talked about this in some of your more recent podcasts now that it's summer. And there was that heat wave. But we were fortunate enough that we lucked out. I think as an American, we're like, of course there's air conditioning in a hotel. Why wouldn't there be?
Not necessarily.
No. But we lucked out. Our hotel had air conditioning. So that was great. And then they have a great amount of what we call quick serve restaurants, like in a Disney park. So these are restaurants that you don't have to make a reservation to. They're not like table, sit down. You walk up, you order your food. It's casual and you go sit down. They have a lot of those with really cool and different themes. Yeah. But at the time we were there, it was a hit or miss on what was open. So, for example, they have this quick serve restaurant called Toad Hall. Okay. And you don't have the Mr. Toad's ride at Disneyland Paris, but they have an eatery there that serves fish and chips. And if you're a Disney fan, we had read that, it's really cool and decorated inside. If you like the Mr. Toad cartoon, you should go in there and eat. But there was only one day that it was open in the 3.5 days we were there. So we had to make sure that we knew that one day. And it's probably based on attendance.
And was that shown on the app as well?
Yes, it was. And you have to know the restaurants, though. So, like, I was keyed in for Toad Hall because I knew that we wanted to do it. But there were other of the restaurants that I hadn't realized their names ahead of time. And so it didn't occur to me like, oh, that's not open. And, if I go to the app, I see it listed now. But I wasn't familiar enough with the restaurants to know that the captain was, a restaurant there.
I see. So are the restaurants very different? Like, are there more or fewer sit-down restaurants? There
might be a little bit more. or comparable. What we saw, I thought, was that the theming was really unique at all the different sit downs. And they try to have good theming down here in Florida too, but the different lands had different restaurants, and we just thought the inside was decorated really neat, and it was fun for us to experience all those. Mm-hmm. But and as far as food, like for us, it wasn't that hard to find, food for our kids and for us. They still had no shortage of fries, and even some of the places had chicken nuggets for the kids and, salads and sandwiches and everything. So it wasn't hard for us to find food.
Well, guess what? French kids also want to eat nuggets and fries, and that's what it is, really. I mean, they're not that different. I mean, at home they eat better, but when they're at Disneyland, come on, they're gonna have ice cream cones, and of course, Did you like the food overall? Was it?
Yes, I think the food was maybe a little bit better than the food at Disney World. Like, it's pretty down here. You can get a burger, you can get a pizza, and they had a lot of that stuff, of course, over there as well. But the quality might have been a little bit better than the quality here in the States and the parks.
How much money? How much money do you have to budget per day?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have an answer for that.
I think it's about 16 euros per person per meal, more or less.
Okay, that sounds about right. And we would get a little bit of a discount on some of those meals because of the Disney cast member.
Yeah. I think it's under 20 for sure. I mean, I'm not talking about the sit-down restaurants. I'm talking about the quick food stands, which are, they're fine. And when we go to Disney, this is probably going to sound awful to some people out there, and I apologize, but I don't go to, if I want good food, I don't go to Disney. I'm sure in France you can find really good restaurants outside of Disney. So to me, my expectations are it needs to be nutritious, and I don't want to be hungry 5 minutes later and not get sick.
Yes. Those are good standards.
Yes. And not too outrageously expensive, because French people are French people are cheap deep down, and they don't really want to spend all that much on their meals when they're at a place like Disney. I don't think they would,
Yeah. And, speaking of like the cost and everything, we, never had any problem just using a credit card everywhere.
Good.
Disneyland Paris. I can't think of one. I mean, we didn't do a lot of, they didn't have as many of the walk up little stands where you'd buy like a Mickey bar like you do in the States here, or popcorn. They have some of them, but not as many as we have at Disney World. So I didn't use that as many, but every place that we bought food or we bought any merchandise, we never needed cash. So that's something that if you're worried about coming into the park with cash, you really don't need it.
Yeah, no. That's a very, very good point. Mm-hmm. All right. Did you try any of the fancy restaurants, or?
We did. It's called Bistro Chez Remy. And this is in this new part at the studios where this Ratatouille ride is. Uh-huh. And you're supposed to be in Remy's restaurant. And so, again, you shrink down to the size of a mouse. And so you're eating on, there's some oversized plates, and everything is like he's come up with this restaurant. And so that was that was more of a French restaurant. And every dish is served with ratatouille.
Oh, good.
And and we had some delicious chocolate mousse for dessert and everything. So that was a lot of fun, and that was a great restaurant. So that was a good one.
Cool.
And then we did something called the Buffalo Bill Wild West show.
Okay.
Because, I guess, they get a kick out of the cowboy, the Indians and the cowboys and everything.
Oh, yeah. French people would totally go for that. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Must do for French people.
This is in the Disney Village part of the area. Yeah. And so you don't have to get into the theme parks to do this. This is outside of it. And it's a dinner show, and you come in and you're served very American food. You've got cornbread and like some sausages and there were some ribs and baked beans. And you eat while the show goes on, and there's horses, and there's Annie Oakley who's shooting things. And Mickey and Minnie come out, and, they're all out there too. So, you've got competitions, and you're like banging, on your table and stuff, cheering for your person.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
And everybody gets a cowboy hat that you wear.
Nice. Do you get to keep the cowboy hat?
You do, but in the end, it was just too much. We thought we left it behind to travel back to the States with it. They were very big.
You don't need cowboy hats from France.
No, we're okay. But yeah, you'd see people walking around after in the parks with their cowboy hats.
That's cute. Yeah. Very good. All right. So does that cover it about the food, or do you have more restaurants you want to recommend?
We didn't eat at this one, but it smelled really good. This one inside the park was called the Silver Spur. And it was a steak restaurant that we poked our head into, and we were like, oh, we'd really like to eat there. But, when you do, this is a sit down one, and it takes a little more time. And when you do that, you take away from doing some of the attractions, Yeah. So we ultimately decided not to, but we did eat at another place in the village called King Ludwig's. And that was German food. And we actually, before we got to Paris, we actually started in Germany. And we really enjoyed the food there. And this King Ludwig's Castle restaurant had German food that was very good. We really liked that a lot.
Very nice.
That was about it.
Excellent. All right. Okay, shall we talk about the hotel where you stayed?
Yeah, we chose to stay at one of the Disney hotels, and it was the Sequoia Lodge.
Okay.
And, we picked that one because we knew that, we wanted to be able to walk in and out of the park. Mm-hmm. So it would, we crossed through the Disney villages to get to the Disney Sequoia Lodge Hotel, and it would maybe be like a 15-minute walk into either the Disneyland park or the Studios park. Mm-hmm. And that was nice. That was one of the few hotels that actually had a pool. So,
yes, nice.
That's it. Again, when I was there, the pool was very helpful.
That was really important that week. Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then the AC. Now the Disney hotels, I think there's 5 of them, and maybe like a campground. So that's a little bit farther out. And so they all are within walking distance, but the Sequoia Lodge is kind of what you'd say more in the mid-range for prices. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the high, it wasn't the low. We were looking at staying at one of the lower, the budget ones that are the Disney hotels, but that would have been a longer walk, so I'm glad we didn't do that. They do provide like an easy shuttle to some of those outlying ones too.
Yeah, and we stayed just the one night at one of those outlying ones. Mm-hmm. It was called the Vienna House Dream Castle at Disneyland Paris.
Oh.
And it was just fine, It was your standard American. You never see this in France, and so this it's worth mentioning. They had 2 queen-size beds in the one room. You hardly ever get that in France.
Wow. Yeah.
It was a fine place. The only gripe I have with it is that to get to the shuttle, they have buses that will take you into the park, but sometimes a lot of the time, first thing in the morning or late in the afternoon, or the bus is full. You have to wait for another bus to come by. And so there's a bus every half hour, but sometimes you have to wait for another one. So if you're impatient, I wouldn't go to that one. But it was otherwise a fine,
Yeah.
I mean,
and when you do a theme park, most theme parks in general, you're spending so little time in the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but it was comfortable.
I don't know if the one you mentioned is actually like a Disney hotel, though.
I don't think it is. Yeah. I think it's Disney themed, but it's not
official.
Yeah, I don't think it's one of the. Yeah. Now, we also went to the Disneyland Hotel for a party.
Oh, nice.
And that was really nice. I was surprised. I was really surprised how nice it was. Because, Yeah.
And that one is so neat because it's like literally right at the entrance of the park.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, even the Disneyland Hotel in California, which we've stayed at, you still had a bit of a walk into the park, but this is like you can see Main Street from your Disneyland Hotel.
Yes, it's very close. I assume it's it's one of the most expensive ones there.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, the only difference between staying, well, I mean, I'm sure there's more differences, but the biggest difference probably between staying at like one of the official Disney ones and what we call a good neighbor hotel here in the States would be that Disney official hotel. You're going to get that extra magic hour. You're going to be able to go into the park an hour ahead of everybody else.
Ah, yes.
And that's nice. You know, we took advantage of that. So the park would open at 9 a.m. And this is only Disneyland. They don't do it for the Studios park. But the park would open at 9 a.m. We could go in at 8 a.m. They have to give you like a special card that you show. And then there's a few attractions open.
Yeah, just a few, right? Yeah.
Yes. There's not that many. So you can, you know, we would do some of the like Space Mountain and Peter Pan, which can get a long line. But it was nice to take pictures in front of the castle because then there wouldn't be as many people, or they would have the characters out. And so you could try to, you know, quick get a picture with Minnie or something before everybody comes in.
Yeah. So this Vienna House Dream Castle hotel that we stayed at is 2.5 kilometers away if you're walking.
Okay.
But it's 4 kilometers away by car. So you have to take the shuttle. I mean, you don't want to walk 2.5 kilometers before you start walking inside of the Disneyland Hotel anyway.
Yes, right.
So it's definitely one of these. And it was on a long road full of various hotels that are kind of neighboring hotels, but not part of the Disneyland complex.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, you know, we have that down here too. There is, you know, you can choose to stay at a Disney hotel and you're going to pay a little bit more. I mean, that's just the fact of it. Yeah. Or, you know, you can get a nice hotel to just, a little bit away and save maybe a little bit of money. And the 2 queen size bed that is really nice.
Yeah, that's good. You know, because it's really hard to find in France. A room that will accommodate 4 people it's like, I think that's why we got it, is because there were 4 of us, and it's, you know, like, okay, this hotel will do. And it was just for one night, so it didn't really, it didn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Okay, let's see. On our list, what do you think was your favorite thing that you did this whole trip?
That's hard. I mean, we each of us in our family had a different attraction we like to do. So, so it was really just walking around and discovering, the different uniqueness. The Disneyland park was definitely a favorite of ours. But it was just, I love the Haunted Mansion at the parks in the States. And they have something called the Phantom Manor here at the Disneyland park. And we must have done that like 6 times. Which I wasn't sure until we went in. It's all in French.
Okay. That's good to know.
That's one of the few attractions. A lot of the attractions go back and forth from French to English. So, but this was all in French. It's a very similar to the rides in the States. So just because it was in French, I still understood what was going on because it's the same storyline.
Yeah.
And my kids love the Hyperspace Mountain, so we probably did that, as many times as well. And then the Big Thunder was so cool as well. So we just had fun riding all these rides, and we love to do that as a family. We love the theme parks and visiting them.
That's so good. That's really good. Is there anything you didn't particularly like?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's hard for me to be critical of my Disney, but we didn't really enjoy the train. So, the train, there's different stations throughout the park. And we would see, the app is really cool because it gives you the wait times. So you can be standing in Frontierland and you can see a wait time for Fantasyland. And we saw these wait times for the different train stations that you could go to, and they were pretty long. It would be 30 minutes or longer. And we thought, man, okay, well, this people like the train a lot. We heard this was the ride to do, make sure you do the train. And so we waited in what they call Discoveryland. They don't call it Tomorrowland at Disneyland Paris. They call it Discoveryland. And so we waited for the train for 30 minutes, and it was hot, and then we got on it. And they only run one train. So at Disney World, they had multiple trains. Disneyland, they're working on bringing out a second train, they had told us, but there's only one on the track. And it wasn't good. There wasn't a lot to see along the route.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We're like, wow, we wouldn't wait for that again. That was
so
really
it's just big choo-choo train that doesn't. Yeah. We didn't do it.
Yeah. And, at the Disney World Resort, they have the trains. Again, there's multiple trains. And then they put stuff along the route, and they talk about different stuff. So we just kind of felt like it was a little lacking there.
Yeah.
And then we did, an attraction at the Studios Park that we really wouldn't recommend either. It was the backlot tour. And that used to be a long time ago. It used to be at our park at the Hollywood Studios here in Florida. And they had gotten rid of it. So we're like, oh, let's do the backlot tour. We haven't done it in a while. We're like, this is so boring. It was not good.
So it was just somebody talking about the resort? They have an actor and an actress on a video screen and they're trying to talk about the behind the scenes, and they have some props out there, but the props are really like from movies that were like, have we ever seen that movie before? Nope. I don't think so. Then they have this thing called Catastrophe Canyon, which is really cool because, there's fire and you're like on the set of a movie and things blow up and then water comes. And that's kind of the highlight of it, but it's not really worth the wait and this slow tram ride. So we're like, that can go anytime they want to. Either they need to update it or just take it out, Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Mm-hmm. Any others that weren't so good?
Those were the two main ones that. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Popped out to us.
All right. And so, if you had some good friends going, like the friends listening to the show right now, what would you tell them?
Yes.
Good tips.
I would say don't buy the photo pass. The photo pass is something Disney offers where if you're on a ride and it takes the picture, or if you're getting a picture with the characters, they have people there that take the pictures, and you get to keep all those. So I think the cost is €60, and then you get your pictures. You can go to the website and download them when you get home so you have your souvenir. And they have the Disney Photo Pass here in Florida, the Florida Park, and also in California. And we bought it in California before and had great pictures. But at Disneyland, there's just not many they don't have many Photo Pass people out working to take pictures. Like in Florida, they're all over the place. And it actually, you get that now with your annual pass, you get these pictures. But there's only a handful of rides that had the picture that they take on the ride. And, like I said, they weren't out in the parks. And then when we only did a couple character meet and greets because the lines were pretty long. And we noticed as we were waiting in line that the Photo Pass cast members, they would kind of just stand there, and the kids would interact with the character, and they would just stand there. Whereas in Florida, like as soon as you start coming up, they start snapping pictures because, Minnie or Mickey is hugging your kid. Yeah. Or, they're giving them a kiss on the nose. And those are all like photo opportunities.
Of course.
The Photo Pass people there, they just stood there until it was ready for the actual pose. All right, get together. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah, so no candid, like the kid seeing the character and getting close to the character. I understand what you mean. Yeah, that's kind of strange that they wait so long because. Yeah,
you're missing it.
Yeah. You missed the magic. Yeah.
So at the point when we got up in our line, because we waited a while for some of them, like I kind of said to one of the ladies working there, I said, snap away. Like,
Yeah.
Take as many as you want. They're all, I'm getting them all,
Yeah.
So we probably came home with, from attractions and characters, maybe, 15 pictures for €60,
Yeah. And is that 60 per person in your party?
No, it was one package, so 60 total.
Okay, yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. But some of the photos that you sent me to illustrate this episode are from that?
Yes, the ones with characters are, yeah.
Okay.
So they were good.
Are you allowed to take your own pictures when you're with the characters?
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely could have done that. And a lot of times there's another attendant there as well that you could get in. So someone from your party wasn't not in the picture. They would snap it for you. So you could all
that's
four
nice.
could be in it. Yeah.
That's nice.
So yeah, our personal recommendation was that we wouldn't recommend the photo pass. We'd say skip it.
Wasn't worth it to you.
On the other side, we thought the nighttime show in front of the castle was amazing.
Yeah, it was good, huh?
Oh, yeah. We'd highly recommend sticking around. I think it's 11 p.m. or 10:45 it might start. Where everybody goes in front of the castle and they, project the images on the castle, and they have water in front that fans out, and they can project images and music, and it blew us away. It was so good.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed that. I had to look through my photos to see if I have some photos of that. Because I definitely remember seeing that and thinking, wow, that's a nice show. Because I didn't have memories of particular. I mean, I hadn't been so impressed with the parades at the end of the day.
Yeah, we skipped it.
Yeah.
It was so hot too.
Yeah.
But what was interesting for us at that night show is we got into, in front of the castle where it's the roundabout right there at the end of Main Street. And everybody is sitting down because we're kind of waiting for the show to start. So we find our spot and we sit down, and then the show starts. And my husband looks at me and he said, "We're not going to stand up? Like, we're all still sitting?" Nothing like that happens here at Florida or California. Like, everybody stands and watch the show. They might sit while they're waiting for it, but we thought it was kind of strange where we're like, okay, all right, we're all going to keep sitting. Well, this is comfortable. All right.
Yeah, you're comfortable. I don't remember it being difficult to see the show.
No, we were in a good spot.
Yeah, and you don't really have to go there in advance or anything. You can see it from lots of different places anyway.
Yeah. And we didn't go and stake out a spot really early. I think we might have gotten there at 15 minutes before the show started and found a spot. Yeah. But I would definitely make sure you'd catch it one night that you're there. It's a good show.
Yeah, it's a really good show, yeah.
Another thing I would recommend for if friends are going, if you need transportation to or from, like if you're coming straight from the airport, or in our case, we were leaving to go back home. Disneyland Paris was our last stop. There is a shuttle that you can get, and it's called a magical shuttle.
Oh.
Now, it's not run by Disney, but they partner with Disney.
Okay.
And they pick up from the Disney hotels. And there's a timetable, and they can either go to Orly or they can go to Charles de Gaulle.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, we took advantage of that and scheduled it in advance before we left the States. And then they picked us up and took us to Charles de Gaulle that morning.
Very nice.
And it made it easy for us, yeah.
Yeah. Is that included in the cost, or is that extra cost?
That would be extra, yeah. But it was, I thought it was reasonable, and it was so convenient.
Yeah. Honestly, if you're gonna take the RER, you're gonna pay like 12, 13 euros to ride to the end of the line per person.
Yeah.
So,
and for us, to have to get to the airport from from those hotels, I was like, I didn't want to have to worry about riding a train to get to here with all my luggage
and changing.
They pick you. Yeah, they pick you up in a charter bus, and your luggage gets stowed underneath, and they drop you off, and you're on your own.
That's really good. Excellent advice.
Yeah. And I think
that's it.
I think that's about it. Yeah, it was a great experience. I thought that Disneyland Paris was very magical. My kids enjoyed it. We all enjoyed it.
That's great. I love it there. I mean, I've been there. I think I must have gone like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like a Disney fanatic. I just if I get a chance, I'll go. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Well, it's interesting because, in looking, doing some research for the trip ahead of time, like I had read that Disneyland Paris it's the number one visited attraction in France, maybe even Europe. I mean, people may think it's the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre, but they get more visitors than even those places.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised. I know it's a really popular place.
Yeah.
And when we were there, we heard people speaking Russian, speaking English,
Yes.
British English, speaking all sorts of languages we didn't recognize.
Yeah. Right.
So, it's a fun place to go. And if you've never been to Disney, it's definitely magical.
Yes.
I mean, the first
Yes.
few times are just so much fun. And if you're with a kid, I would say for children, if you have children between 5 and 12, 13, it's ideal age to take them to Disneyland Paris. If they're, between 12 and 15, maybe not, unless they've never been. And in that case, that would be fun. But if you've been a bunch of times, I don't know. I just, but there are people who love going to Disney at 80 years old.
Yes. I hope I'm one of those people. Yeah.
I was so surprised the first time I met somebody who told me that she was like 70 and she goes to Disney by herself.
Aww.
She says, if one of my grandkids or great grandkids come, that's fine. But if they don't, I just still go. Like, wow, that's amazing. Like, wow,
Neat. Yeah.
Puts you in a happy mood and helps you have a good day. And why not?
Yeah. Yeah. We love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm going to be posting this episode quickly because I know lots of people are looking for this information. So you have shared a lot of great tips. I am very, very grateful to you for doing that.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
My thanks to Dorothy Bushel, who signed up to support the show on Patreon this week. Thank you so much for stepping up and helping the show continue, Dorothy. And also, thank you to all the patrons who support the show month after month. I want you to know that I really appreciate your support. I was going to put out a new installment of Lunch Break French last week, but I didn't get to it. But it's almost finished, so it'll be very, very quickly. Check your email inbox, patrons. To support the show on Patreon, go to patreon.com/join us, patreon.com, JOINUS. And to support the show in some other way, go to joinusinfrance.com/support. Thank you so much also Susan Bednars for sending in a donation via the Tip Your Guide button. I think this isn't your first time donating, Susan, and thank you for coming back and donating again. And also thank you for sharing the episode 156, the last one, Polo Vale. I also want to thank the people who get in touch with me to offer to record an episode about their experience in France. I couldn't do it without you. So all of you are very, very much appreciated. The best way to connect with me is to email me, Annie@joinusinfrance.com, or leave me a voicemail, 1-801-806-1015. In a personal update, I will be heading down to Spain, to the beach, with my cousins for a couple of weeks, and then to the US to visit family for 4 weeks. So I'm being very, very French. I'm taking off 6 weeks total. I hope all of you have some fun vacation plans too, in France or elsewhere. I realize most people who are not living in France can't take that much vacation. As a matter of fact, my husband, he lives in France and he has a French work contract, but he still doesn't take that many weeks off. He's more American than I am in that way. I am still working on revamping the Join Us in France website with a brand new look. It looks pretty spiffy, I must admit. I'm very excited about it, but I'm doing all the work myself. Well, not all of it, but most of it myself. And that's because I want to learn new skills and I want to know. I just like to do it myself. But it's a slow road, I'll work on it some more, hopefully during my summer vacation. My goal is to launch it before October 2017. So before the tour, the first tour, the next tour coming up. Let's see if it happens. Let's see. Maybe the beach will call too loudly. I don't know. We'll see. Merci. Au revoir. The Join Us in France Travel Podcast is written and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2017 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.